well, let's just go ahead and dive to the bowl quarterback, starting with number 1, Trevor Lawrence of Clemson.
Yes, he is number 1. It was a debate. There is a legitimate debate. That's how good Joe Burrow has been this year. But the thing is, Trevor Lawrence has never been bad. Joe Burrow has been bad in the past in his college career. He got beat up by Dwayne Haskins. He wasn't great last year at LSU. Trevor Lawrence has never lost, in college football at this point. So it's hard to go against him. After what we saw from his true freshman going up against Alabama in the national championship game. And while Joe Burrow has some arm strength concerns, there's really not a thing about the quarterback position that Lawrence can't do and can't do well. 6'6", 220, can run as well. And over in his game grades in his last 5 games are 85.1 passing grade, 92.0, 86.2, 81.7, and 93.0 this past week in the conference championship game against Virginia. He's back. He's red hot, and I cannot wait for that Ohio State Clemson game. We'll preview it next week more in depth, but goddamn, Trevor Lawrence against the Ohio State defense, that is must-see TV. That's probably the game I'm by far most excited for. Well, if it ends up being Clemson LSU, I'd be more excited for that one. But those of the upcoming playoff games, that one, I cannot wait.
I'm pretty sure Trevor Lawrence in his high school career only lost 1 football game, and it was the last one, his last football game he lost, and he still hasn't lost at the collegiate level. That is insane.
Yeah.
That is insane. The guy was like a consensus number 1 overall recruit. Everyone sees him as this big star. This guy has never faced adversity, in my opinion. I think which is no red flags.
He's going to quit when he gets to the NFL.
Exactly. He takes an L in the NFL. He'll literally double his loss total in like the last 5 years. Interesting prospect for him. What's your take on, so this year, I think in the beginning, some people were saying he kind of took a step back.
He did. He made a handful of decisions that he didn't even make as a freshman in that Georgia Tech game and that Syracuse game, just ugly picks to start off the year. But again, in his last 6 games, he hasn't thrown a pick. He hasn't thrown a turnover-worthy play even. So he hasn't even thrown a ball that could have been picked.
Yeah.
So he has been lights out. I think there was some of that, maybe jitters get it out the way, all this hype around him. He had, not as nearly as, he had to have a whole offseason of people talking about him as, the GOAT, as the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, since Elway, that sort of stuff. That hype can get in your head, and all of a sudden, you're pressing a little bit to be that guy right out the gate when he doesn't need to press. He's that guy, no matter what. So I do think what we've seen from the second half of the year, I'd be afraid if I'm Ohio State. That's all I'll say.
Compare Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow for me. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence isn't going to be in the 2020 NFL draft, but what I'm interested in is how you view them as prospects. Because I know recently you said it's time to start talking about Joe Burrow as this best we've seen in a long time type of guy.
Yeah, Burrow is accurate, more accurate than Lawrence at this point in their careers. Now, obviously, Burrow kind of flipped a switch over the course of the offseason. The accuracy really took a big leap, but he has shown more accuracy at this point, in my opinion, than Trevor Lawrence. The intermediate range, underneath, dude's ball placement is off the charts. Best ball placement we've seen in our 6 years of grade in college football, but Trevor Lawrence has a cannon. Joe Burrow, adequate enough arm strength, not a plus arm in the NFL by any means. Trevor Lawrence is going to be in that upper echelon of the Josh Allens of the world, the Aaron Rodgerses of just pure arm talent, can put it into any window you want. He has it. So that to me is the big difference, that why you're putting the Lawrence, one, being younger and producing at an earlier age, but 2, just Lawrence has that arm to where really the sky is the limit. There's nothing, the whole playbook is open to Trevor Lawrence.
It's a good opportunity to go into our number 2 quarterback on the ranked by bowl, or the bowl quarterbacks here, Joe Burrow, a 93.5 PFF passing grade so far this year. He has an opportunity in this next game, if not next 2 games, to even improve on that. He's been so impressive this year, 48 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions, 32 big-time throws to just 9 turnover-worthy plays. To compare to Trevor Lawrence, he has 29 big-time throws, those highly graded throws in PFF system, and 11 turnover-worthy plays. Joe Burrow, I know you compared him to Trevor Lawrence. I think the biggest question, what everyone wants to know about Burrow, is how do you think he took this next step? What elevated his game?
Hell if I know. I mean, if you knew, you'd be able to get a bunch of quarterbacks to do it. It came out of nowhere. It legitimately came out of nowhere. The biggest thing to me, though, if there could sort of boil it down to one thing, I think it's confidence. And it's something that, we talked about with Baker Mayfield this year. He didn't look nearly as confident as he did as a rookie. Confidence at the quarterback position, you have to trust basically where you're going with the football, that your protection is going to hold up. You have to be confident. And last year, he was not in the pocket. I think this year, completely different story. He steps into pretty much every throw. You did not see that last year. He's maneuvering without fear. When he does break the pocket, it's because he literally has to. He's not doing it necessarily too early. So I do think that the confidence aspect in that LSU system has been a night and day from what we saw last year, and that's the biggest thing that explains the jump. But again, it's more than just that. Like, there's a lot of factors at play, but that confidence level, he's at an all-time high right now.
Increased confidence level in the offense, I think, inside of structure. You mentioned the accuracy. Joe Burrow, easily the best quarterback in college football right now inside of structure from an accuracy standpoint. But really stands out for me, and I think what makes the highlight reels, in addition to the big-time throws, is what he's doing outside of structure, how he's reacting to pressure. You've even said that he's maybe even a little bit faster than Jalen Hurts from a mobility standpoint.
Hurts isn't that fast. People love Hurts' rushing ability. Like,
True.
He's just a big dude. Like, he's probably going to run like a 4.7 something.
But my question is, so you love what he's doing inside of structure, the accuracy. Where do you value when you're evaluating quarterbacks the play outside of structure? It's not a high percentage of plays, but there's opportunity outside of structure. You've seen it with Patrick Mahomes. You've seen it from the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Making plays outside of structure is important to get into that upper echelon. Joe Burrow doing it well at the college level. How do you value that?
So it's almost like an addition, like a check mark plus mark in his favor in terms of you got to win from the pocket first. You got to be able to make the throws, be accurate, that sort of thing first. But if you do have that little outside of structure ability, that's a little bonus that's going to push you over the edge. Like, there's so few guys that can be perfect from the pocket. And that's why we saw guys like Eli Manning, when it went quickly, because you have to be perfect from the pocket. And if you're not making plays outside of that pocket, if you don't have good pass protection, all of a sudden you're shot. You don't have any sort of recourse. There's no second. You don't have a plan B. So I do think that it's a big thing, and getting even bigger in today's NFL, the ability to do that. And Joe Burrow obviously has that.
A bigger rocket ship, Joe Burrow or Joe Brady? Joe Brady coached at William & Mary, linebackers coach in 2014, Penn State graduate assistant in 2016, New Orleans Saints offensive assistant, and now this year, probably one of the most coveted assistant coaches in college football. That is insane what he's doing.
From GA to Assistant of the Year award that he won this year in 3 years.
He coached linebackers at William & Mary after playing receiver at the school for a couple years. This guy graduated college in 2012.
He's hot right now.
That's hot.
I can't wait to see where he ends up after this year.
Dude, if he has a cup of coffee with Sean McVay, I'm telling you, he's going to get a head coaching job here pretty soon.
He'll be coaching the Panthers next year.
Let's go to number 3, Justin Fields. I think here at PFF, we've done a great job of covering Joe Burrow. He's been a rocket ship. He could finish as one of the highest graded quarterbacks single season in the PFF college era, dating back to 2014. But Justin Fields is having a damn good season, too, playing very well for an Ohio State team that is in the college football playoff that could go the distance this year. What's your take on Justin Fields? And I think a better question, compare Justin Fields to Trevor Lawrence, 2 guys that will be in that 2021 class.
I think Fields is not on Lawrence's level whatsoever as a passer. I think he is good as a passer, but I think his real value comes from the threat he poses in the run game. He is legitimate, going to run sort of Cam Newton-esque as a runner in terms of big dude, fast dude, can run in between the tackles if you want. So that option threat immediately, you get more favorable looks. We talked about a lot with any quarterback that presents that. You get more favorable looks from defenses. Run game's automatically better. It just helps you in a number of different ways. So I think that he has value there, and he takes care of the football. He's not going to put the ball in harm's way. Only 8 turnover-worthy plays on the year. In his first year as a starter is, a really, really, really low number for anyone, especially a guy who's only in his first year as a starter. So I think he has that, and he has the arm as well. Like, he has good arm, not accuracy level wise on par with Lawrence or Burrow, but he's a talented guy. And for him to do this, like I said, in year 1 as a redshirt freshman, I guess he's probably a sophomore at this point. I don't know, whatever you want to classify him as, is pretty impressive.
With Justin Fields, too, a 92.9 PFF passing grade, right behind Joe Burrow in that regard. I'm glad you mentioned the turnover-worthy plays, 30 big-time throws, 8 turnover-worthy plays. But what stands out to me, the number that stands out to me, 13.9 average depth of target. That's the 3rd highest in college football. To be limited just 8 turnover-worthy plays when you're pushing the ball downfield like that, yes, his receivers are open. I think that offense does a good job of getting open receivers, but that's very impressive what he's doing down the field.
Yeah, what he is he's operating in that offense so much differently than Dwayne Haskins did. Dwayne Haskins, remember, they would run a ton of screens, and he attacked the middle of the field, crossing routes. He would just pound crossing routes all day long in that offense. Justin Fields attacks way more with the go balls, way more with post routes down the field, and is, in my opinion, better than Haskins throwing down the field like that. So I think that's where sort of his strength is. Again, it's that run action, hit you over the top sort of offense that we've seen with guys like Cam Newton, with guys like Russell Wilson, have a lot of success with over the course of their careers.
Mm-hmm. So for me, I want to hear you compare the two there. Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins this year, I think, has taken steps over the recent weeks. I think he had his best game to date this past week with Terry McLaurin and company. It's not a great supporting cast in Washington. He hasn't had a ton of opportunities with the ones, but just looking at them as prospects, you see Justin Fields as the
much better
player.
prospect.
Really?
Much better prospect. Yes, I think if Haskins returned to school, there might have been a debate in terms of who's starting for them that year, because I think that's how good Fields is. Like, these top three guys are all very much, Burrow's locking in at number one this year, but then Lawrence number one next year, and Fields probably number two. Like, that's how good these top three are as prospects.
A great comparison for Fields and Dwayne Haskins, looking at 2018, 2019 combined. 93.0 PFF passing grade for Justin Fields, 84.9 for Dwayne Haskins in 2018.
He just didn't have the downfield.
The biggest difference is the turnover-worthy plays. 18 turnover-worthy plays for Dwayne Haskins, 8 to Justin Fields. Then you look at that average depth of target, over 4 yards lower for Dwayne Haskins, not necessarily pushing the ball downfield. I think that's very interesting. I think Justin Fields could be even better in year 2 with Ohio State next year. I think he's an interesting prospect to follow.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.